What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the big blockbuster deal of the offseason is in. The New York Giants trading for Darren Waller. Going into this offseason, we were saying all season long that the Giants needed to trade for a wide receiver. They needed to go out there, sign someone big time in free agency, or make a deal to get one of the top wide receivers on the market. They didn't do that. They went with a tight end instead, but I think that can have a similar effect based on the alignments that Darren Waller plays, his playing style. This is a player who really provides you with a dynamic superstar receiving option when he's healthy. So we're going to go ahead today and discuss how he might be utilized in the New York Giants offense, what his role might be exactly, and what exactly it means for Daniel Bellinger as well. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode and subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, and what are your thoughts on the Darren Waller trade?
Well, I didn't get to give my thoughts yesterday because the second I get to the gym, of course, they dropped this freaking blockbuster news. I was so upset, but Anthony's like, I'm jumping on it, and he showed us the energy. Love to see that. But yes, this trade, I just sat there looking at my screen like, did I really just see this? Is this real life? Darren Waller is going to bring an element to this Giants offense we haven't seen in a very long time, right? He is a downfield threat. He is an explosive playmaker. He's a big-ass tight end, and he can do a lot of things for this offense. Talk about what Mike Kafka wants. Talk about what Brian Dable want. You know, you're looking at an offense of the Kansas City Chiefs that utilize a guy like Travis Kelce, you know, Dawson Knox over in Buffalo. But then you look at what Brian Dable, he prefers coaching tight ends. I don't know if you guys know this, but his original coaching job when he was with the Patriots was coaching guys like Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. He comes from a line of coaching elite tight ends. So if you're looking at the Giants to get the most out of players like Darren Waller, given he stays healthy, and that's a big variable that we're going to touch on, there's nobody else I'd rather have than Mike Kafka and Brian Dable coaching this guy up because they are going to get the absolute most out of him. And Darren Waller, I am ecstatic about this acquisition. A third-round pick with basically giving no money. If they want to move on and it doesn't pan out, they owe no money to him. And a third-round pick, essentially you're trading Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller, and I will do that every single day of the week because as we know, Kadarius Toney equally as injury-prone, but the fact of the matter is he doesn't do half as much, not even close to half as much as Darren Waller does on any given offense, on any given week. So love this deal. I think it's a phenomenal kind of risk for the Giants. It's a high risk, high reward, low risk type of contract and kind of acquisition for them. Yes, they do have to pay what, $11-12 million in salary space, but if they want to move on, they can. No harm, no foul. Third round picks for the Giants last couple years have been absolute graveyards anyway. You might as well go for a proven commodity that can contribute right now and give Daniel Jones one of the best offensive weapons in football, the tight end position. I think that we can all agree with that. Now, I've seen a lot of comments saying we have to be a little bit wary about the injuries. You know, he's had some hamstring issues. He's had some ankle issues. Luckily, no knee damage and no serious ligament damage there, knock on wood. So at least he's coming off some injuries that, can be finicky. Hamstrings, as we've seen in the past with guys like Darius Slayton, even guys like Toney, they can pop up again and again. But as we saw OBJ back in his rookie season, 2014? What was that? I forget. I think 2014's rookie season. He dealt with a hamstring injury early on and never bothered him again. So I think that you can get over these issues. Just got to be careful. Got to maintain it. You got to work it out. Obviously, the Giants have some of the best strength and conditioning guys in the league. Some people may argue that. I think the turf might be a little bit more of a variable there. And obviously, maybe some things have happened over the past that suggest there's something going on. But the hamstring injuries have never been a serious problem for the Giants. Again, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything here. But end of the day, love this acquisition. I'm really excited to talk about what Darren Waller is going to bring to this offense and why he could really change everything and the dynamic that he can have with Daniel Bellinger, because those two tight ends have very different qualities, very different strengths, and combining those two together could equal something pretty special at the position. So I'm pretty excited to talk about it, Anthony. I'll let you take it away to start it off.
Yeah, quickly, before we dive into Darren Waller, I'll touch on something else that you said. You said OBJ's 2014 rookie season. First of all, oh my God, it's been 9 years since Odell Beckham Jr. had that phenomenal rookie season. I can't believe that. Time flies. Second of all, we all know it. OBJ, free agent. A lot of Giants fans really want him. A lot of Giants fans really don't want him. Well, it sounds like the Giants fans that don't want him are going to get their way. License plate guy, you all know him. He tweeted today that he heard it's down to two teams, and neither one of those two teams are the New York Giants. Considering that license plate guy is known to be on the phone texting and calling Odell Beckham Jr., I'd say his sources are pretty reliable. So it seems like the Giants can firmly be ruled out of the Odell Beckham Jr. sweepstakes. However, However, if you guys are interested in how they might acquire a wide receiver this offseason, Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post, who's broken quite a few pieces of news for the Giants this offseason, he gave some insight. Someone asked him, do you think it's more likely to be a trade or a free agent that the Giants acquire? He said, I expect both over the next month. Remember, free agents could be of the Richie James tier. So he's kind of implying there that if the Giants do acquire a wide receiver this offseason, it might be another big-time trade, just like this Darren Waller one. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Stay tuned to this channel for updates on that. But let's go ahead and talk about the other big-time trade that the Giants made, Darren Waller. Now, I like what you mentioned there with Brian Daboll and his history coaching tight ends. Another thing that I will say about Brian Daboll is that he's very good at adapting, okay? When he was with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen's rookie season, I mean, Josh Allen was atrocious as a rookie. He stunk, but that's because Brian Daboll built an offensive scheme for him based on what he did at Wyoming, and it did not translate at all to the NFL level. There was a really great article that I read a while ago about that offense and the way that Brian Daboll basically took the playbook, tore it to shreds, threw it in a fire, and built an entire new one for Josh Allen's second season. And it allowed him to take that step forward before the third year when they got him Stephon Diggs and had the breakout. And I think something similar could happen with the Giants here. Not exactly a tearing apart of the playbook, but an adjustment, because looking at some of these stats, Daniel Jones kind of struggled with 11 personnel at times. On early passing downs, he averaged 6.9 yards per attempt out of 11 personnel, which was 20th in the NFL. He had a 46% success rate, 23%, and a 69% completion percentage, which was 10th overall. Now, let's take a look at 12 personnel. And if you don't know, 11 personnel, 1 tight end, 1 running back on the field, 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. So let's talk about 12 personnel here. And I'm going to tie this into the Daniel Bellinger conversation because I know a lot of fans are curious about his role. 9.3 yards per attempt, number 4 ranked in the NFL, 53% success, 12th overall in the NFL, and 85% completion percentage, number 3 in the NFL. So out of 12 personnel, Daniel Jones seems a lot more comfortable. So what I expect here, Daniel Bellinger is going to get a good amount of playing time, and Darren Waller, since he does have the versatility to line up all over the field, and we're going to dive into stats about that in just a second, you're going to see a lot of personnel packages that feature 2 tight ends on the field, and it's going to be a Darren Waller, Daniel Bellinger show, and I'm really excited for that. So Alex, what are your thoughts on that? You know, talking about how Darren Waller fits into this offense, the adaptability of Brian Daboll, and his ability to probably work in Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger to both get satisfactory playing time.
Well, I also want to touch on one other variable at the same time. A lot of people have been bringing up the fact that Darren Waller drops a lot of passes, and that is total bullshit. A lot of Raiders fans have been popping up on our comments saying, Darren Waller drops passes, blah, blah, blah. They don't know anything about drop passes until they saw Evan Engram with the Giants, or Darius Slayton with the Giants, or many of the different players we've had over the years. He does not drop that many passes. It's just not true. If you actually look at his drop rate, during his best 2 seasons, in 2019, he had a 5.3% drop rate, 5 drops over 90 receptions, 115 targets. I'll take that every freaking year, every single day of the week. 2020, he had a 1.8% drop rate, 2 drops over 140 targets. Who came up with the dumb narrative that Darren Waller drops passes because it's a load of shit? It's not true, and I'm here to debunk that because it's simply a falsified, kind of reasoning or narrative that was accumulated, I guess, just to make us scared of him or whatever it might be. Raiders fans trying to justify getting rid of him. The injuries are more of a concern than his drop rate. His drop rate is not concerning. The biggest drop rate he ever had was 8.8%, 6 drops in 2021 over 102 targets. Still not bad. You're looking at Slayton, these guys having drop rates over 10% on a yearly basis, some of them. So this is not anything to be concerned about in terms of his drop rate at all. But when you're actually looking at how they can utilize Daniel Bellinger and, of course, Darren Waller, that's a really interesting conversation. And personally, I think Bellinger is a tremendous run blocking tight end. He can do a lot of things for you in the running game. Darren Waller, what does it do to you if you have both these guys on the field at the same time? It allows you to run the ball effectively, and it allows you to utilize play action even more effectively because you can attack the seams, you can attack the outposts, you can do so many things with a tight end like Darren Waller with his speed and size. So I think that he's actually going to help Saquon Barkley a lot because when you have a player of that magnitude that is able to run routes and he's fast and he's quick and get open really efficiently and he's an explosive playmaker, it's going to give you so many more options in the passing game and play and kind of like playing off the run game and opening up play action, and that's just going to confuse the hell out of opposing defenses. And the main reason the Giants have struggled in the past primarily is because everything was so predictable. Like, how many times, and I know you guys can kind of sympathize here, or you guys have similar experiences, how many times were you watching a Giants game, and you were like, I know they're running the ball, or I know they're passing the ball, or I know they're doing this, I know they're running a slant to this guy. How many times did you call a play as it was unfolding? I imagine all of us have done it a couple of times already. So now we know what we don't want in an offense. Darren Waller is the type of guy you want in an offense that's going to open things up, confuse defenses, and it's going to confuse us even more, which is exactly what we want. If the layman person watching football is able to diagnose plays and figure out what's about to happen, I imagine that the scheme is not very good, right? I think we can all agree with that. So that's been a pretty regular occurrence over the last couple of seasons with the Giants. Last year was a lot better, a lot more creative. That did not happen a lot of times. So I definitely think that we're heading in the right direction. Darren Waller opens things up for this offense entirely. It contributes toward the running game, contributes towards the passing game. And if you are going to run the football, run that thing right behind Daniel Bellinger, because he's one of the best run blocking tight ends on our team and one of the best run blocking tight ends we've had in a very long time. So do I think he's taking Daniel Bellinger's spot? Not at all. In fact, I see them as a phenomenal combination of players who they can do a lot of things with. And since Darren Waller has a pretty lengthy injury history, having a good tight end in Bellinger who can take over full time if need be is the perfect insurance policy. So in my opinion, this is a great combination. It's a match made in heaven. I love that duo. And I think that the Giants thought about that pretty clearly when they were going to acquire Darren Waller and saying, we already have a guy in Bellinger we trust, developing nicely. We think he can be a long-term solution for us. Darren Waller pairing with him is only a positive and beneficial thing for this offense.
Yeah, and one thing that I will say as well, talking about getting both of those guys on the field at the same time, do not discount Darren Waller's ability to line up out wide and run some mean routes. This guy has a release package that's rare to find in a tight end. Like, he runs really solid routes. In fact, take a look at his alignment in 2022. This guy didn't play tight end last year. Now, granted, he didn't have the best season. The Raiders probably didn't know how to utilize him the correct way. Good thing they're moving on from him. We'll take that, please. But let's look at his alignment here. 2022, he was an inline tight end for only 17% of his snaps. 20% of them were out wide, and 61.9% of his snaps were from the slot. The Raiders didn't use him as a tight end, they used him as a jumbo slot receiver. So think about that. The Giants' offense is just so much better now that you look at it from that perspective. Essentially, what the Giants are getting here is a 6'6" wideout. They're getting a 6'6" wide receiver. Now, granted, he's better when he's playing more prominently at an inline role, but the most inline tight end that he's ever played since 2019 is only 54% of his snaps in 2020. For Daniel Bellinger, I mean, this guy plays in line on 90% of his snaps, right? But for Darren Waller, only half of his snaps are going to be played as an inline tight end. So when Giants fans looked at this trade and were like, oh, it's not the big-time receiver that we wanted, it's just a tight end. No, this is both wrapped into one package. This is a wide receiver. This is a slot wide receiver. This is a tight end. This guy lines up anywhere on your offense. He's a matchup nightmare. We've talked in the past about Saquon Barkley being a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses. No linebackers can guard him. Safeties even struggle to guard him. Well, now you have two players that both safeties and linebackers cannot guard, right? So you're going to have a field day if you're Daniel Jones throwing down the seam to guys like Daniel Bellinger underneath, Darren Waller over the top, and Saquon Barkley coming out of the flat. It's going to be a really solid offense. This trade really gives the Giants a versatile little chess piece that they can expose different players on an opposing defense with. And if there's anyone that I trust to utilize these players, it's absolutely 1,000% Brian Dable and Mike Kafka. Go look at their histories. Dawson Knox turned into a stud with Brian Dable. Travis Kelce, I mean, that is the best tight end in the NFL. And Mike Kafka was used to coaching alongside the best tight end in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs in Travis Kelce. So if there's anyone who knows how to turn a tight end into a superstar, I'm sure that Mike Kafka has learned a thing or two from Andy Reid. So I'm so excited to see Darren Waller in this offense, man. Again, Giants fans really wanted the trade to be for a big-time wide receiver. Well, they want someone who lines up outside and gains yardage. Think about it this way. This is a great stat from Next Gen Stats. From 2019 to 2020, those are the two best seasons of Darren Waller's career. He ranked second among tight ends in receiving yards from the slot or wide alignments with 1,476 yards across those two seasons. He had about 1,200 total yards those two seasons, and almost 1,500 of them were from out wider in the slot. think about the impact that this guy is going to make in the receiving game. He is not just a tight end. Alex, what are your thoughts on that? He is so much more than a tight end, and what do you think his impact can be lining up all over the field?
I mean, he's going to do so much for this offense. And just a little sidestep away, Art Stapleton just said on Twitter the Giants have been connected to DJ Chark and Mecole Hardman. So we'll keep you guys updated if anything materializes there. Of course, Mecole Hardman, playmaker, another guy you really want on an offense, especially coming from the Chiefs. You want to get as many of those guys as you can, and he's a great player, a gadget kind of guy, but also push the field, do a lot of things for an offense like the Giants who like to kind of get guys in motion and do some creative things. So Mecole Hardman's definitely someone I'd like. DJ Chark got some speed to him. He's a big body. Really like him as well. Definitely has fallen off the last couple seasons. Moving around a little bit. I think he was at the Lions, then he went to the Jags. Now he's a free agent. So someone that the Giants could also look to bolster their receiving core with as well. So some guys on the market the Giants are looking at. We'll obviously keep guys updated and post anything if they do make any additional moves. But Darren Waller, as you mentioned, I love the fact that they're moving around the offense so much. I mean, you said 61.9% in the slot last year. I mean, you're talking about like a jumbo slot, someone you could put on the outside, someone you could put in line on running plays. You can use those two tight end sets and really create some confusion using play action and whatnot. This is exciting stuff. Like the way that you can use a guy like this, the versatility that it offers you, not only confuses defenses, but it allows you to expand upon everybody else. Think about, I think there's one variable I like to touch on that. Think about Saquon Barkley. What makes Saquon Barkley so good, aside from his like polarizing athleticism, is that he draws so much attention, right? How many times have we seen opposing teams like have multiple spies on Saquon Barkley? You're talking about like safeties always looking down at him. You're always looking down on the linebackers are always looking at him. The defensive tackles always looking, where's Saquon Barkley? How can I plug that gap? There's always so many people looking at Saquon. Darren Waller is going to draw attention from the safeties. He's going to draw attention from linebackers. He's going to draw attention from cornerbacks. He's going to draw attention from the defensive coordinators. And they're going to be scheming to stop Darren Waller. So when you have a guy like Darren Waller, you have a guy like Saquon Barkley, maybe you add a guy like Mecole Hardman, maybe you draft someone like Jordan Addison, and then you have Daniel Jones who can use his legs as well. There's too many people to keep an eye on, right? Last year, how many players did we have that actually garnered that much attention aside from Saquon, right? You're not gonna find me saying Richie James was getting attention from everybody. You're not gonna see me saying Darius Slayton was getting attention. They did not respect our playmakers at all. They only respected Saquon. They knew that they could line up man on man against all of our receivers and have no problem. Love Isaiah Hodgins, but the same thing occurs there. They felt they could go man to man with all of our guys. Look what the Eagles did to us. You look at how much attention some of these guys get. Darren Waller is gonna be one of those people. Maybe someone we draft, Saquon Barkley. It's gonna really open up our offense and allow us to do more creative things, and it's gonna allow our other playmakers to benefit because they're going to be drawing safety attention, going to be drawing these guys away from portions of the field, won't be able to expose them. So I'm pretty excited to see how that's going to open up our offense, but I think that that's an interesting variable to kind of throw into the mix. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a big deal. And, one of the other things you touched on there is Daniel Jones' ability to make plays with his leg. Now, a guy like Darren Waller has the ability to run deep routes, run multiple routes in one play. This is a guy that can help Daniel Jones get off script more and really use his legs. We know that Daniel Jones is great running out of the pocket, extending plays. He proved that a few times. Red zone touchdown to Isaiah Hodgins versus Philadelphia. We've seen him do it multiple times now. He's gotten a lot better in that aspect of his game. But also, let's just think about like the surprise aspect of the Giants offense now. Like you can have Saquon Barkley break off a big run on any given play. You can have him come out of the backfield and make a great catch on any given play. Now you have Darren Waller who can line up as a tight end, slot receiver, or wide receiver on any given play. You never know where he's coming from. And now you also have Daniel Jones who can share the ball with all of these guys and take the ball and run it on any given play. So there's just a lot of surprise, shock variable to this Giants offense that should make it so much more explosive. And another part of why Darren Waller is going to make this Giants offense so much more explosive is his ability to make deep plays, go downfield, stretch the field. He has the ability to make a lot of big-time plays downfield. Now, listen, the Giants offense last year, they did not throw the ball downfield. Daniel Jones had 26 deep passing attempts of 20-plus yards last season. That's the third lowest in the NFL. He was competing with the likes of Matt Ryan, who just got cut by the Colts today. Daniel Jones was not throwing the ball downfield last year. Now, part of that has to be, Daniel Jones is pretty conservative. He doesn't like to take too many chances. But the other part of that, and the main part of that, is the fact that the Giants offense just didn't have any receiving talent whatsoever. They didn't have many guys that could go downfield and make big-time plays. Darren Waller does exactly that. Let's take a look at his 2022 deep receiving stats. 7 receptions on 15 yards for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns in the year. 2 of them came from deep, and a 99.3 Pro Football Focus grade on 20-plus yard passes. He led the Raiders in deep target rate with 36.2% of his passes being thrown 20-plus yards or targeting him 20-plus yards downfield. So Darren Waller is an absolute deep threat. Again, we talk about him being a slot receiver, a wide receiver, a tight end. However you want to utilize him, he's going to be utilized on a lot of vertical routes. We've talked about the Giants not having a guy who can be a seam eater, right? Go up the seam, get past the linebacker, get between those 2 safeties, and make some big catches against the cover 2 defense. They didn't have that guy last year. Listen, I love Daniel Bellinger. He's a really good player. He can make that play on rare occasions, but he doesn't do that consistently. That's just not his game. But Darren Waller does that on a consistent down-to-down basis. He goes downfield through the seam and makes those receptions against the cover 3 in the middle of the field on a post route against the cover 2. He adds just a whole nother dynamic to this offense. So Alex, how excited are you to see Daniel Jones throw some Danny Dimes downfield to Darren Waller?
I mean, that was a nice little sequence right there. But if you guys saw the dap up that Daniel Jones gave Darren Waller in the video on the Giants social media channels, it just is crispy. It's a crispy dap, and when you have crispy daps right off the bat, it just screams success, you know? It's just that combination, that chemistry is already growing. It starts with the dap, man. You ever see those TikToks or those videos where it's like, you know, like this guy like introduces somebody to like his best friend or something, and he has like the cleanest dap, and he's like, oh, like now you're best friends. You ever seen those videos? It's kind of funny. But anyway, that's kind of what Daniel Jones and Darren Waller are now. They're best buddies after that crispy dap. So I'm definitely excited to see what they can do. I mean, this is going to be an explosive offense. We know this, right? Last year we saw one of the better offenses we've seen in a very long time from this Giants team, and it was with nobody. Like, we were really just relying on Daniel Jones on the ground, relying on Saquon, relying on Isaiah Hodgins, who came in halfway through the season. So, you know, right now we're starting to add some pretty nice pieces, and I think the entire concept that the Dable and Kafka are trying to build here is that this offense isn't going to be a dink and dunk offense. It's going to be an explosive, downfield-centric offense that also capitalizes on healthy, risk-free opportunities, whether it be in the screen game, whether it be in the short to intermediate range. Daniel Jones is a very accurate quarterback. Most of his interceptions either come from undercutting, like someone just undercutting a route, like just one of those like anomalies, or a drop pass or something like that. He does a pretty good job. He's pretty accurate when it comes to the short to intermediate ranges of the field. And downfield, we haven't really seen him actually exercise that portion of it in the past couple years, you know, dating back to his rookie season. So I'd love to see them begin to expand upon that once more and see what he can do, because we know he's got the arm talent. We know he's got the arm strength and he's got good accuracy. We just need guys who can catch the freaking ball. How many times did Slayton drop a deep pass and it goes through his hands, or, you know, whatever it might be? And I remember them like it was yesterday. How many times did Evan Engram drop a deep pass? That one against the Philadelphia Eagles still haunts my nightmares. Like, it's just gives you shivers, you know? So having guys like this who can stretch the field but also open up space for other playmakers is exactly what you're looking for. And if you haven't checked it out already, go see the article Anthony just wrote on the Empire Sports Media website. Really good, detailed explanation and a lot of stats that indicate what Waller is bringing to this offense. So if you haven't heard it on the podcast, which he's rattled off some stats for you guys, you can go check it out there and see the numbers for yourself. So definitely good stuff over there. Just wanted to shout you out for that one.
Thanks, man. I was deep in my bag on that one. But you just mentioned someone, Evan Engram, and that kind of reminded me of another stat that I'll pull from this article real quick, because Daniel Jones actually threw the ball to Evan Engram an obscene amount during his time with the Giants. I got to find this stat. Hold on. I'm scrolling. There we go. During the seasons of 2020 to 2021, Daniel Jones threw the ball so much to Evan Engram that he was 8th most in targets for a tight end from 2020 to 2021. We're not talking about one of the best tight ends in the NFL. We're talking about 2020 to 2021 version of Evan Engram was 8th highest target rate for all tight ends in the NFL during those 2 seasons. Those are the 2 seasons when he was dropping passes like it was nobody's business. Like he was getting paid not to catch passes, but to drop them. Those seasons, he was 8th most in targets. Now think about that, because a lot lot of people always described Evan Engram's skill set to be, the Walmart version of Darren Waller, right? He was kind of the knockoff Darren Waller. Well, now Daniel Jones loved throwing the ball to Evan Engram. They did have a lot of great plays during his career with the Giants, for what it's worth. A lot of Daniel Jones's highlights from his career have been throws to Evan Engram, which is funny enough to say. So when you're looking at Evan Engram, the skill set that he had and the way that Daniel Jones and him actually had pretty good chemistry and connected really well, Darren Waller is like Evan Engram on steroids. He's the much better version of Evan Engram. That skill set that Daniel Jones loved to feed the ball to, now he has that skill set cranked up to the max, the best version of that skill set in Darren Waller. So I'm so excited about that. I just think that, listen, Daniel Jones to Darren Waller, I think that's going to be a connection. Like, I think they're really going to click. I like what you said there with the crispy daps. I will say Daniel Jones sounded like a video game character in that video. He looked so awkward that it made me uncomfortable while watching that video. But as long as those two are connecting on the football field, that is all I care about. And I really think that when you look at how Evan Engram used to be utilized and how Daniel Jones used to throw him the ball, Darren Waller is really going to fit in well with Daniel Jones. But here's one other aspect, one variable before we wrap, Alex, that I want to bring up. And that is playing time, okay? Because last season, Darren Waller, obviously he missed 9 games. He had a couple hamstring injuries. Those tend to linger for a season. He actually had a quote today in his press conference where he said that he thinks in his offseason, his approach used to be really messed up. He would go too hard, too fast, and that led to injuries during the regular season. Waller said that he's completely changed his offseason routine. So hopefully that doesn't happen this season. He doesn't think he's going to get burnt out and have any injuries this upcoming year. Fingers crossed that is the case. But here's something to take note of, though. This is a quote from Pro Football Focus. The Raiders slowly phased Waller out of their offense with their new coaching staff. His playing time to start 2022 was already lower than the majority of his 2022 performances, and it only declined from there. So his total time on the field started off in 2022 way below where it used to be during that last coaching staff, during that regime with the Raiders. So they were phasing him out. Clearly they want to move on from him. That's why he's on the Giants now. But something that I want to talk about is that the Giants last year, Daniel Bellinger played in over 94% of New York's offensive snaps in the games that he played in. He was always on the field. Darren Waller, I don't think he reaches a level like that. I don't think he reaches a number like that just due to injury concerns. But I think that's part of that's a good part of having a guy like Daniel Bellinger on the roster, because he can handle a high volume. So if you want to give Darren Waller some breaks here and say, hey, we want to, kind of put you on a pitch count, make sure you don't get injured, you can absolutely do that with him. And Daniel Bellinger can still be a major part of your offense. But listen, Darren Waller, if he is fully healthy, he is going to play a lot. He's going to line up all over the place. The Giants offense, they don't go zero very often. 0 running backs, 0 tight ends. They don't do that. They don't even go 10 personnel either. They like to be in at least 11. So there's always going to be a tight end on the field for the Giants. Darren Waller is going to be a huge part of their offense. So, Alex, quickly before we wrap, what are your thoughts on that? Just Darren Waller maybe being on a pitch count to start the season, his offseason approach, changing that, and really just the amount of playing time that he's projected to get in the 2023 season.
I mean, look, if he's healthy, no reason to hold him back. You know what I mean? No reason to have him on a pitch count if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, that's a different story. You mentioned kind of the Raiders phasing out him out of the offense. The Raiders are phasing everybody out. They don't even have a freaking team anymore. They just signed Jimmy G to replace Derek Carr, and Devontae Adams is like, this is ridiculous. Like, even Devontae Adams is pissed. Josh McDaniels, I don't know what the hell's going on over there, but they should be phasing out their whole coaching staff right now. They should be phasing out their GM. They should be phasing out their ownership, because right now the Raiders are a laughing stock. So anyone that we can pillage from their roster, I am open. I am willing to take on, just pillage their roster. They have a lot of really good talent, and they're not being utilized correctly, and they are just giving guys away. So obviously they have their own plans. They're kind of weird. I don't really think that they're doing a good job over there. So if they're phasing out Darren Waller, that means that anyone that acquires him probably did a good thing, because if they're trying to get rid of guys, probably means that that those guys are still good. So I definitely think that right now the Giants made a good move, risk-free. Yes, a little bit of a cap hit, but the risk is certainly worth the reward. So I'm excited about this. I think it was a great acquisition overall, and I think that I'm happy with where they're going, and we'll see what kind of happens next in terms of adding additional pieces and seeing how this offense kind of starts to form and the players that they add, because the different types of players are going to tell us a lot about what their style and strategy is going to be next year. So I'm definitely curious to see where they go with this.
1000%. I thought it was a great value trade, 100th overall pick for a top 100 player in the NFL. It doesn't get much better than that. So if any of you fans who were listening to this episode were kind of on the fence about the trade, hopefully all the stats we threw out there, we tried to paint a picture of what this offense might look like now with Darren Waller. Hopefully we got you on board because I'm really excited about this trade. I think he's going to have a huge impact on the New York Giants offense. So that pretty much wraps this one up, though. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you are new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. We'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants and Forza Napoli Sempre.